Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great start to your Thursday. I only got about 45 minutes of sleep last night, but hopefully that's not what you're rolling into the day with. But a little bit of coffee and a whole lot of scheduling helps. Anyways, I wanted to share with you some really cool things as I continue this kind of hot take series. So my goal is for this to be about 90 seconds, not super long. We'll see how I do. But yesterday, I had an amazing experience attending an entrepreneurship and faith summit that Jack Barsky hosts once a month. Jack Barsky, if you're not familiar, the TV show The Americans is loosely based on his life story to an extent, as well as there's 60 Minutes did a special on him. He's somebody that, as a total dork that loves World War II and Cold War history, he's somebody who played a huge role in the KGB and spying in America. And his journey from being one of the illegals, the people who were here imitating Americans, building families, building careers, moving into positions of authority and influence and access in society. He went through that life where he had literally three lives he was running concurrently in a way. And kind of got to learn more about his story. But what I loved about the group, what I'm really getting into, and I think you should really consider too, if you're worried about building your professional network, expanding the number of opportunities available, which, you've seen my previous posts in the world of AI right now. If you're not building your network and building your human relationships while also experimenting and learning with all of the AI tools that are out there, most of which have free tiers for you to play around with, if you're not doing those things to increase your value as a member of the team, you're kind of headed for a cliff. And I just don't want to see you fail. If you want to maximize your chance of success, I suggest focusing on those two things. Jack's group that meets once a month, really fascinating collection of people, a few people from his corporate life, which was part of his job for the KGB. He was moving up into leadership roles to have access and influence and also access some technology and move that over to the Russians. But, there were people who worked with him who said that he was the most amazing person they'd ever worked with. He went into crowds when Prudential would have these big company-wide meetings, and he would actually keynote or speak at the event and then spend time with almost everyone in the room. And of course, on one side, you're like, okay, yeah, he's building relationships. But the people that have followed his story and worked with him back then, many of them are still his closest friends and people who have reconnected through this group that meets once a month, which I think actually speaks to character in an unusual way and authenticity as well. Jack took some pretty tough questions from me in the beginning because I wanted to kind of crack open that nut of like, what is, how do we know we can trust someone who is KGB, who went through all this training and did all these things to build, fake relationships, a fake life? And he had some really great, authentic answers to that. So he does podcasts like once a month. You can catch them all over the place, but definitely recommend looking him up. I'll include some links below to, especially the 60 Minutes post. That's absolutely fascinating. But don't just take my take on it, go and actually listen to what Jack has to say because that's really valuable and probably a lot more authentic than me just relaying and giving you some hearsay here. Besides that, so I'm hearing a lot of, in the circles I'm running in now, there's a huge spike in mergers and acquisitions going on right now. And what's happening, apparently, what's driving this is boomers are retiring. They're selling their businesses. And this is creating a huge tax liability for these boomers who are looking to, retire. And what I didn't know that somebody explained to me that I knows more than I do, and I still have, a lot to learn on this. So again, don't just take my word for it, do your own research. But apparently what has happened is there have been changes in the tax code recently to try and facilitate ways for people who are selling their business at this stage of life to retain as much capital as possible, as well as be able to redeploy that for other investments, other opportunities. So it's not really a tax dodge in the sense that, it's not that you're going to necessarily be able to keep more money, just like pulling it out. You're still going to be hit with 30 to 40% taxes, but you can structure the disbursement of those funds in a way that kind of like, it sounds to me like when you sell a house and you have the opportunity to reinvest that money without getting hit on capital gains, in your next home. It sounds very similar to that. So it's something that it was interesting to me because there's this trend of, boomers, a huge, huge population in our country retiring and selling their business to younger generations. And then to me, where my mind goes is at the same time, this massive transfer of wealth is occurring. You have this massive change on the tech landscape. Very happy to see that NVIDIA beat their earnings estimate, which was not expected. So it seems like the AI market might be less shaky than originally advertised. But if you do have investments in AI, please consider the fact that, in my opinion, as someone who lives and breathes this stuff every day now, this stuff, AI is something that's amazing, and it's very much synonymous though with the internet boom of the 2000s. And when pet.com had a crazy valuation, I can't even remember. I was 10 years old. But regardless, this is a moment where all of the excitement has created a bubble around AI, and there is legitimate value in AI, but it's really important to work with people and teams who have the experience to look at, is my AI solution scalable? Is it cost efficient enough? Is it something that I can count on? Because what I fear is going to occur, which will negatively impact the stock market, but also negatively impact so many small businesses that rely on these AI tools that are bubbling up, is I think what is likely to happen is a lot of these startups are going to run out of runway because they did not build efficiently. So companies are going to wake up and find out these AI tools they're relying on have just disappeared, and maybe their data's gone too. It's pretty scary to think about, but that's where I think we're headed if the people who believe there's a bubble in the AI space are correct. So again, just a perspective to think about, especially in terms of your investments, your portfolio, but also the tools that you're using within your business. I've definitely gone over 90 seconds, so let's wrap it up here, and we'll check in probably in tomorrow or the next day. All right, see you guys.